I have a great love of Highlanders because my grandfather was an Archibald. He was Scottish army doctor. And so my collection contains about 3,000 to 4,000 Highlanders. And I try and do Highlanders in the style of makers across the world. These are Mignot. It is their attempt at doing, I would think, Argyles from the look of them. They don't come out with a brilliant Union Jack. And there are several different versions here, which is interesting. I'm not sure I'm not sure that I've actually got. I think this is one version, and there are others which are not in the picture. And then I like to pick up from time to time things which I thought were good. And this is obviously a band of the Parachute Regiment. I'm not sure that the sousaphones are real life or whether they're just for fun. I love the way that these guys are marching. They're sort of leaning forward a bit, and the guy came to a BMSS meeting with this band with the idea of taking orders. I asked him later on in the meeting whether he would be prepared to sell me this band, and somewhat surprisingly, I thought, since it seemed to be his only sample, he said yes, he would. So I paid him a reasonable price for this, and that was the last I heard of him. And although he did make it into Stuart Asquith's book of early new toy soldiers, I have never seen any other figures made by him at all. So it's just possible that this might be the only example existing, which, given that they're quite a nice parade, I think is a dreadful shame. I do have a cameo of red berets. I think just about every country in the world seems to have some. It's a badge of honor for any dictator to have squads of these running around the place. And for some reason, the red beret took off as a must-have for just about every army. So it's fun to have a collection of them, and we've got Charbons and Harvey and Lone Star. That's the hard to get item, the motorcyclist. Another interesting item, that's one of the few plastic pieces that you could get at the coronation. I've never taken it off its backing card, so that's a nice piece for your theme tonight. And these are little model of Buckingham Palace, a little model of the Westminster Abbey, the coach, not quite enough horses, but passable. Couple of plastic figures. These are about 25 millimeter. And a nice picture of the whole thing is and probably probably cost somewhere maybe 1 shilling, one and sixpence in those days. And I'm not sure how many of those would have survived, but I've got one. At the other end of the scale, this is a Gamage figure, which I only acquired recently because someone was kind enough to give it to me. I actually probably worth a bit, but a very accomplished model from the time, and I absolutely love it. My brother, on the other hand, collects this sort of thing, and at the time I was eating a lot of shredded wheat because they were making a complete procession on the back of the packets. This is the centerpiece, the state coach, and you had to cut it out and bend over this this piece to make it all stand up. And this is actually from my brother's collection, because I never I never kept all the cardboard bits and pieces that that made up the whole procession, which I did at one time have. So when we get to my Scots Grays, I do like adding bits and pieces to them that Britain's never made. There are one or two that are not converted here from, you know, the guards, but re-headed. They do look the part quite well. And my great friend David Bracey made these for me with lances, and there are one or two others there to go on parade. I did have at one time, I did have this box. This is not mine. It's a picture of but I mean, this is one of them, the sort of must-haves for keen Britain's collectors. Britons never really gave up using they used to love to do things that worked, because they were originally a company that did toys that moved and worked, and you could play with, such as the race games, the circular race games, and the various different automata that they did as expensive toys in their very early pre-toy soldier days, not many of which, but this they introduced into the range to see if they could do novelties. This one I don't think sold an awful lot because it was rather expensive if you were just someone who was collecting toy soldiers. They did the occasional thing to see if it would work, and actually none of it did.
Breaking news from Toronto, Canada. Stuart Hesney, longtime editor of the world's premier Toy Soldier magazine, has confirmed that he will be in Toronto on April the 14th to make a public presentation.
On Sunday, April 14th in Toronto, I look forward to sharing some stories about the toy soldier and model figure hobby with fellow enthusiasts. I hope you can join me and the great people of the Ontario Model Soldier Society. All are welcome.
This is put together with an elastomeric castle. This is one of my favorite toy castles. I quite like. Of course, my friend Alan Hickling was the toy castle man, at least in this country, and sadly he's no longer with us. Another thing that I rather like is my Turkish detachment. I have about 200 men in the detachment now, and it kind of goes with Egypt, which was once part of the Turkish Empire, until the Suez Canal got built, and we kind of took over, and it became a British protectorate. But the Turkish Empire was still next door. So I thought, and they've got a very interesting. They look interesting. I've got some new toy soldiers which are based on Britons, and some Mignons in the background. Britons only did a couple of sets of Turks, so I was anxious to expand that, because I don't know many collectors who do that. You know, we all have to do our own thing. My history shelf starts here. Mary was born in Alexandria, so she was an Egyptian, and so that's why I start with Egypt, and I go on through the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and so on down there. I've got 3 shells going round the corner. This is how I display my figures. Those are my shells. This is the other end of the Turkish part of things. This is one of my colonial shells with Sudanese, a few Arabs for background, and it goes into the Sudan campaign at this end. That's one of the that's the only one I've got at the moment, of the York and Lancaster Regiment in their Sudan kit. And I do like having sort of large displays of stuff. This is a display of my dragoons. So I managed to pick up quite a nice number of the post-war Britain's dragoons, the first dragoons, which they never, for some reason, did, except in the large box of cavalry, box 129, was the only place you could get them pre-war. And again, I've got some new toy soldiers mixed up in these to make it more interesting. This is my RAMC display. I'm told that these tents are Haida. I'm not sure whether that's true. They could come from almost anywhere, but anyway, they do well in the display. I like the RAMC simply because both my grandfathers were army doctors. I'm also quite fond of the Wild West. This is my memory is not all that good these days, so you'll forgive me if I don't remember all the people who make these things. But this is the death of Wild Bill Hickok. And I like, this is another side of this. These are television and comic or film characters. You've got Woody, Hank and Silver King. That's an early British television program. And this is Lucky Luke, which is a French comic strip